Hi everyone, it's Julie here, your pet grief expert. On this video I'm going to be explaining how if you lose your animal, your pet, in some kind of divorce settlement or if a relationship breaks up, that you get exactly the same feelings of grief as when your pet has died. And even though you know your pet is probably safe, or at least they are alive, you still get those feelings of loss and grief. So you might still get anxiety and sleep problems. You might still be tempted to overeat or drink to try and numb the feelings. So it's just as important to mark the life that you had with your pet as in the same way that you would if your pet had died. So you can still, plant a rose tree. There's something on my Facebook page, if you have a look there, of a company that does special plants where you can include the ashes in the pot and the base of the plants, or have a memorial area on your fireplace or on your shelf. Still commemorate the life that you had with your pet. So even though your pet hasn't died, you've experienced the loss. And you might find that that brings back loss from the past. So perhaps, if you'd had a relative that dies, because you suddenly lost that connection with your pet, because you're not able to see them anymore through the breakup of your relationship, then, it can bring back all sorts of feelings of loss from the past. So perhaps a relative that's died, a loved one, even the loss of a job. If you're very bitter about the breakup and about the fact that you can't see your pet anymore, and that's made this huge hole in your life, and you were very bitter, for instance, or angry when you lost your job, that's going to bring those feelings back as well. So it's important to deal with the loss itself. If you just deal with the angry feeling or the anxious feeling or the loneliness without dealing with the actual loss of your pet, if you like, then it's just going to skim the surface and the feelings are going to keep bubbling up every time you think about your pet. So it's really important to get to the root of it and to deal with it in the same way you would as though your pet has died. And that sounds really awful, because of course you don't want your pet to have died, and people who probably are grieving for a pet that has died might think, well, that's got, nothing like it, nothing like the same feeling. But it is, because where you had that pet all the time, every day, and they were with you through the good times and the bad times, maybe through the arguments or when you were upset, now they've just gone. There's just this big dog or cat shaped hole in your life where your pet used to be. So it is really important to treat it as though you're grieving in the same way as if your animal had died. So during the session that we have, you be in hypnosis, and you can say all those things to your pet that you wanted to say. Perhaps you feel guilty because you feel as though, if only you'd have seen this coming, you could have made preparations to make sure that you got the custody. Or perhaps your working arrangements and you're out all day, so it's not practical for you to be able to keep your pet while you're living by yourself. And you feel guilty about that, even though there's nothing you can really do about it. Whatever those feelings are, it's important that you just release them and let them go. During the hypnosis, you can do that. It's much easier than just talking like I'm talking to you now on a conscious level. So when you have it when you have the conversation in hypnosis, it really does feel as though you're talking to your pet. And it's not like it's spirit or anything like that. It's just as though your pet was there with you and you were able to explain why you're not there anymore, why you feel guilty, why you feel lonely without them, and all the things that you would have liked to have said or done. Make the memorial, make the album, the photographs, and really be glad for the time that you had with your pet. Don't be wishing you never had them because you miss them so much. Just be grateful for the time that you and your fur baby had together. You might feel angry with a partner who's had the pet, but that's not the pet's fault. That's not your fur baby's fault. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is just a little exercise, and I'm going to do it with you. So take a deep breath and let it out slowly until all the air is emptied out of you. So you're breathing out longer than you breathe in, if you like. So it's a bit like all the air letting go from a balloon. You can close your eyes if you want to, but for the purpose of the video, I'm going to keep mine open. Okay, so take a deep breath, let it out slowly, and say the name of your fur baby. And now think of all the reasons you have to be grateful that that fur baby was ever in your life before. So maybe because they were there whenever you were upset, because they always seemed to know whenever you were upset. Perhaps they were your constant companion, they just made you feel better. Just think of all the reasons you have to be grateful that that pet was ever in your life at all. Don't be angry with the pet. All right, you might be angry with your partner or your ex-partner, but that's not your fur baby's fault. And it's similar to when you lose custody of a child, but usually with a child, there's some court order in place where at least you get to see your child. Now, some parents we know will abuse that, but that's for a different conversation and a different video. Most of the time, when your pet has gone to the custody of the other partner or your ex-partner, you don't get to see them. That isn't your pet's fault. Be grateful for the times you had. So deep breath. Let it out slowly, all the way out, all the way out. And now think about all the good times you had with your pet. All the reasons you had to be grateful that they were in your life. And if you can do this every time before you go to bed, and tell that part of your brain and your heart that's really missing your fur baby, there's a saying, isn't it? It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And that applies with your pet, with your fur baby. Take the feelings seriously. You are entitled to grieve, however you've lost your pet. It's similar when a pet's run away, and that's really difficult because you don't really get a closure, and I'll do a video on that soon. Just because your pet hasn't physically died, if you've lost them, if you've taken on a pet during furlough, during the pandemic when everyone was working at home, and now circumstances have changed and you have to let them go, give them back to the shelter, give them to a friend, but you've really made that connection. It's difficult. And also you'll find your children as well, in that case, will have the connection, and they probably think, well, they don't have a choice whether the animal comes or goes back to somebody else. However you have lost your pet, allow yourself to grieve, and the same for your family. And I hope that this has helped, and that it just shows you that you're not going mad. Your feelings are legitimate. You are perfectly entitled to grieve however you've lost your pet. If you need some help, get in touch, watch some of the other videos. Every night, do the deep breath and let it out slowly. And think of all the reasons you have to be grateful that your fur baby was ever in your life. Bye for now. I'll see you on one of the other videos.